Ooh, um, today's pretty different. Um, so there's a lot I'm kind of processing in the moment. The first is I think that there's just maybe too many things I'm trying to process. So for me, I kind of need to start breaking them down. I think the first one, um, so went to the vet yesterday, dropped my cat off, got some reports back. So she's doing probably as well as can be expected. So she's pretty old. She's probably closer to 20, and she's in kind of failing health, but she's stable. So that's a good thing. But she's not really going to get better. So the best that can happen is she just kind of stays where she's at, and then obviously the other way is she's going to continue to diminish. But and really, I understand all that, right? So she's just older. Um, Things are just not working like they used to be. Basically, her kidneys are going, and she's on a special diet, and she's losing weight because she just can't. Yeah, she can't eat and retain a lot of stuff. So, but she does eat a lot. Um, yeah, but this is just kind of how it is. So I think I just so I think I always, it's hard for me as I take her to the vet, like at least twice a year for semi-annual checkups, that I always wonder, is this going to be the last time? You know, is this it? So I think at the a big part of yesterday for me, and even maybe even rolling into today, is that just and that's a part of life, but it's tough. It's just really hard for me, um, and recognizing how important it is for me to acknowledge that for myself, not to stuff things down, but to just recognize, hey, this is what you're going through, and just kind of celebrate life in the moment while you can. So pick her up, bring her home. But even as I pick her up, she's not okay, right? So they had to knock her out to clean her teeth, and she just was not kind of doing well coming out of out of the anesthesia. So I can tell, she's not okay. She's not really recognizing me. She's very restless in the carrier. Um, she can't. Yeah, so she just was. She kind of kept falling over. So again, I recognize all that. So I think part of that is because she lost a half a pound over the last 6 months, which is not good. Um, so she's like 4.5 pounds now, which is not, that's not good, but this is as good as things are. Feed her all day long. She eats all day long, but she just can't put on weight. So I think because of that, just when they put her under, I think probably the level of anesthesia was probably a little bit more than she could handle in the moment. So I bring her home, and again, I'm just pretty cautious about, okay, well, what's going on? Is she going to be all right? Is she going to come out of this all right? And yeah, I had a bit of a traumatic experience the last time I brought her. Last year, what happened? I brought her home again after having gone under anesthesia, and didn't really fully understand that she was not fully okay. She seemed okay, and it seemed good to be home. And this is again last year, and so I live in an upstairs downstairs kind of unit, and she wanted to go upstairs. She went upstairs, and on the way, and they wanted to come back down. On the way down, she trips and falls, and I thought she had broken, I thought she died. I thought she'd broken a bone or her neck or something. I mean, I was really scared. But she was just out of it, right? So she wasn't 100%. She thought she was kind of 100%, and so that was last year. And then recognizing she's even more out of it this time, I prevented her from going upstairs because, like, okay, we don't want to repeat of last time where she just came tumbling down the stairs. So I blocked off the pathway, and even last time when I blocked it off, but she somehow got around it, got over it, something, and so there was. But this time I blocked it off, and she didn't even try to break through. I think she understood. Okay, we're just staying on ground floor, and we'll just hang out down here, at least for most of the night. And yeah, so but she's more back to herself now. This morning, I think kind of the worst is behind us as it relate to kind of her coming out of anesthesia. But I think again, just feeling, our time here is limited, and that goes for all of us. And just to make the most of this in the moment. Um, then I'm walking around with the Lord today, right? And it's okay. Well, again, yesterday was really hot, right? So it's probably over 100, or felt like it was over 100. So it's hard to kind of relax when it's hot or rest. So, so I think I've probably been processing a lot. So probably a lot of emotions, probably processing a lot in my head too, um, and then not being able to fully rest. I, probably yesterday I was probably pretty exhausted, and I didn't really even realize it. Uh, so and then you can't really sleep when it's hot. But anyway, this morning I woke up as like after 5. That's very unusual there. So I'm just recognizing as I it's like, wow, it's 5:15. It's like, what happened? But in some ways I was relieved because, like, okay, hey, my body's kicking in. It's like, hey, it needs rest, so it's gonna knock out for as long as it needs to. Um, and then maybe again just things that I was just needing more rest because of the events of the last few days. So that's kind of how my day started. Was just kind of this, man, I'm just really tired. I'm exhausted, feeling a lot of things, and pretty big things. So it's one thing to process little things or a lot of little things, but another thing to process, a few major things, which I think that's what I'm doing currently. Yeah, so, and then even as I was walking in, praying with the Lord this morning, connecting, abiding, um, just seemed maybe a little, a lot, I don't know, just, but different, so every day is different. So today wasn't as much, hey, I'm full of expectation. It was just, man, I think I'm just trying to get back to normal, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I'm just trying to get back to level playing field, which could be, uh, again, could just like, yeah, and maybe I'm just trying, my body's trying to play catch up because I've just been kind of pressing into a lot of hard stuff emotionally. Um, so yeah, just needing to bless myself and maybe even take it a bit slower in the next few days. Definitely today for sure. So in the last few days, the last week or so, I've probably been pretty expectant of the season. Today, I kind of like, okay, I need to just lay that down. Yep, recognizing that, we are in this season in between, Passover, Pentecost, and Pentecost is coming, and that's fine, but it's like, hey, I think I just need a break. I need to rest physically, maybe even emotionally, and just abide, just dwell with the Lord. So I think that's kind of um, the plan for today for myself is just, okay, maybe today um, is a bit of Sabbath, bit of entering into His rest, and just dwelling in that as I recover. So as I said that feels really good. So I'm just I think I'm affirming myself, just like, okay, it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be tired. It's okay to rest. It's okay to just dwell and rest in Him. Um, deal with things um, as you can. So again, grace to myself. Got to experience something for the first time yesterday. So, and that is, there are a lot of prayers online that that I wasn't aware of. I mean, I know that there's a bunch of stuff online just in general, but ministry stuff. I'm just finding out there's just this plethora of stuff out there. Uh, so I stumble upon YouTube, and there's just this again, just a whole bunch of like prayer audio prayers, that you just. So yesterday I um, tried to sit under one of these prayers, and why try? It's like, so it was like 22 minutes long or something, and so as I tried to play it, I couldn't make it all the way through. Kind of ran out of time because I had things going on yesterday, and then even as I came back, it's like, okay, let me either play that again or play that to the all the way to completion, and then I fell asleep. So again, again my body just kind of kicked in, and so but I had kind of wanted to. I still want to finish that, so I want to maybe sit under that again today, and then maybe sit under some other prayers where I'm not doing anything, but I'm just letting it to speak over me, and just yeah. So I think that will be part of today as well. Okay, I think I I almost sat under one whole prayer. Um, so it's good. It's very relaxing. It's very restful. There's a lot of release, and you don't really need to do anything other than so it's like you can lie down, you can just rest, close your eyes, and just listen. And so there's something interesting about those prayers, because I thought, oh, this is a new thing. And then as I started to just right, so I'm letting go, and as I'm listening, there's also something very I'm going, hey, I think I remember this from years back. Um, so there's something familiar about it too. So I go, hey, I think I've done this before. Um, and so in this process, I'm kind of, as I was walking with the Lord, praying, connecting, like, hey, what's going on? What do you want to reveal to me? So I remember some things, some thoughts, concepts that came up kind of yesterday, and it was like, so I've had issues with my parents, and I was like, okay, I probably said things like, I'll never be like my dad, or I'll never, whatever, right? So, and then, look, you can't help but be like your parents. You just can't help it. And then I'm finding, hey, I'm more like my dad than I'd like to admit. But yesterday I admitted it, out loud to another person. It's like, okay, no shame, but just, hey, recognizing, acknowledging, hey, I am like my dad. And there are good attributes and not so good attributes, and it's a mixed bag. I probably, you know, yeah. But I was wanting to before, I think I always reflected on, kind of the negative. Oh, I don't want to be this because it's negative, and yet you become that anyway. Or yeah. But there's also some positive things, and I didn't really recognize that, I think, until yesterday. So a couple things that came to light was, one is, so my dad has this ability to discern. I mean, growing up, I don't even know if I knew what discern was, but he kind of, he sits, he watches, he observes, he takes in a lot of stuff, and he sees and understands things to a deep level. I use an example. It's like, okay, so there might be somebody, that we know that's in our lives or something, and then so he'll listen, and then he might not say it in person, but then like later on he'll say, oh, well, like he'll just make a statement, and then my mom would go, how did you know that? And then we all kind of know that it's true, but it's like, well, wait, and he goes, well, it's obvious, you know. And so I've heard people say that about me, right? So I will in ministry, right? So it's like it's like, well, how did you know that? How did you know to go there? How did you know the timing of that? It's like, I don't know, you just know. And so there was this kind of light bulb moment yesterday for me. It's like, oh, I think I got that from my dad. Um, and for lack of a better term, I'm going to call it discernment. So another thing that I kind of sense that I think and believe that I received from my dad is, so I'm a mercy, and so my dad's not Christian, and so I don't know that he's mercy, but I think there's something in me. So if I'm using my discernment, I think and believe that my dad also had kind of that ability. And so what mercies do is they create a space. They create a safe space. They create a safe space for the Lord, right? So now the interesting thing is my dad, like, was mostly not that, right? He was more of a threat, predator, uh, accuser, violator, uh, violence and things. So you would think, okay, he can't create that safe space. But if I think of the whole of, what he was able to do, I think he was. So somehow, so even though there were these negative things, feelings, experiences in my past with my parents, one things that I remember is, so my home, and then maybe this is self-protecting, but I would go, hey, can my friends come over, right? Because it's like, hey, nothing bad will happen to me if my friends are here. That's what I would think. And I think my mom always thought, hey, well, it's better that you gather here where we could be close versus having you somewhere else and we don't know what's going on. So they would often allow that, friends just hanging out. Um, but in that, I felt like my dad was just, he provided that place, right? So it was his house, and he said okay to that, and I think it was safe. So those couple things were pretty eye-opening for me, just like, because I thought, oh, maybe I have not been able to fully receive, the benefits of the generations, from my mom's side, from my dad's side, kind of thing. Maybe I only got the curses, kind of thing. But as I started to get greater clarity in the last few days, there's this, and I've always known I'm a lot like my mom. How I do ministry, I attribute to, my mom. She's not, and she didn't know what she was teaching me, but I, again, in reflection, I'm like, hey, I do this because uh, my mom modeled that for me. So yeah, it's good. So for years, maybe even decades, right? I would in meetings or small group meetings or ministry settings. Doesn't even have to be ministry settings, but I would. So my tendency is I would just put chairs in a circle. I would have everybody sit around, and then I would just have everybody chair. And I would, so basically I just is checking in. Hey, how you doing? What's going on? And then we go around, and then I would just uh, enter into whatever I sense was happening in the moment. And then after these meetings, and they could even be staff meetings, and people would come up to me and say, I can't do what you do. And I'm like, what? It says, the way you lead a meeting. And it's like, I just put chairs in a circle. I ask people how they're doing. And they're like, no, I can't do that. So I get that from my mom, and it's just something that's in me. And then another thing from my mom is she would do that, right? So she would, it might not be in a circle, but she would go around and but for her she would like everything. Everybody has something to contribute. A talent, whether it's a favorite recipe, whether it's a craft, thing, whether it's regional or whatever, or something from the family, something that, yeah, um, even a story, So she would just have, wherever she went, and she would travel quite a bit, And people would come to see her because she had some talents that she wanted to share. But it was not. My mom would kind of turn it around and say, "Okay, you think you're coming to hear from me, and you are, but I want to hear from you because everybody has something to share." So again, I think my mom was just very validating, acknowledging, and wanted to hear and learn from those around her. So as I think about this, and then kind of the combination of my mom and dad, um, and then who I am and what I do, I think that I'm able to create a space. Um, I ask questions. I look for the deeper things. I'm not superficial. I want to like, well, what's at the core? What are you feeling? What are you sensing? And I want to validate. I encourage. Um, And I think the combination is there's just a greater knowing or understanding that everybody has something and everybody is special and unique. And I try to draw that out so that the person could see and understand that for themselves, versus like, oh, everybody can do that, because that's what we think, but we don't really realize that we're all unique and we're all special. It's just, well, what are we special at? What is that thing that God has gifted us with? So all that to say is, I think that it's I just attribute, I'll just say my ability, or I would say, oh, this is just a God-given, ability, which it is, but I believe it came from my parents, the combination of my parents, so I have this natural talent, if you will, to be able to draw people out, to allow them to feel safe, to allow them to feel and experience the love of the Heavenly Father for themselves personally, uh, an ability to discern and want to go deeper to the core issues and deal with things in a very safe way, and giving people a voice in the process. Um, so not manipulative, but very restorative, very deliberate, and very loving and caring. So thank you, Mom and Dad. Okay, kind of having some technical difficulties there, but I think we're over them. Okay, as I was kind of walking around with the Lord just now, or a little bit ago, I had a couple of revelations. One is or epiphanies, and I kind of sense that the Lord is just saying, "Hey, you're in a season of recovery," and I was like, "Okay, you know." Um, and then as I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I'm in recovery, kind of physically. I'm trying to recover right over the events of the last couple of days. Emotionally, I think I'm trying to recover over the events of the last couple of days. But as I thought about it, there seems to be a sense of I'm in a season of recovery, to greater degrees. So right now right. I'm a person that loves to go deep. So I'm going deep in the season of whatever the Lord's bringing up in the moment or in the day, and so I believe that the Lord is doing a deeper excavation, a deeper cleansing, a deeper healing, a deeper um, sense of restoration in me. And in this theme of recovery, uh, one part of that, or one aspect of that that struck me just now, was that, so I'm kind of in this, I want to realize better my spiritual inheritance right from the generational lines. And I think the Lord is saying, yeah, you're in a season of recovering that which was lost, or that which you haven't received yet. Some of the things that I'm doing now, unbeknownst to me, is I am clearing the way uh, to allow the generational blessings to flow. Um, so some of it's conscious, but some of it's unconscious, and and my sense is that it's bigger than I think. So there's some things that have come to mind just now, and it has to do with loss, or things that were stolen. So a number of decades ago, My grandfather died, and my dad called my uncle, who lived with my grandpa, and said, "Hey, I want to come by and go through Dad's stuff." And my uncle said, "Oh, no need. I threw everything out." And I was like, my dad was furious. My dad cut my uncle off, says, "Man, you're dead to me." So it's not like I'm feeling the loss of any of this physical stuff, but there is this spiritual sense of, okay, and then again in the season of, I believe that the Lord is doing this recovery, spiritual recovery, if you will, of that which was kind of lost, or that which was kind of diverted, or that which was that the enemy has prevented me from receiving. Um, I'll just call it generationally. So the flow has been stopped up. The enemy has come. He's robbed. He's stolen, and he's deceived, and he wants to destroy. He wants to prevent me from fully receiving all that is rightfully mine. So the Lord is in this season of me recovering, I think my spiritual or generational blessing. Um, so stay tuned. All right. So these prayers that I've been kind of sitting under or trying to sit under for the last couple of days is so the prayers about trauma. Um, and so you think, okay, hey, that's nice, and then, right, so there's all different kinds of trauma. But there's a theme, too, in these prayers that talk about um, being robbed, right? And, yeah, so it's, like, interesting. So I've experienced trauma, and so physical trauma, emotional trauma, you know, others, but not even being aware that loss, physical and otherwise, is a part of the trauma. So I don't know where all this is going, other than that the Lord is calling me to rest and recover. And initially I would think, okay, that's physically and emotionally, but maybe even spiritually and otherwise. So this might even be bigger than I think and know and can comprehend. But the Lord is up to something, right? So His plan is bigger than what I can see or understand in the moment. But my part is to just seek His rest, uh, seek to fully recover, whether that's physically, emotionally, spiritually, or otherwise. But it begins with rest and dwelling with Him and entering into His rest and receiving His recovery.